1 cup measure, and I'm going to measure out. I'm going to start with 1 ounce. Go with 1 ounce, and then I can always add more. So there's 1. Going to give this a stir. And then I also want to give it a taste. Okay, it's got a nice little bite to it, but mine needs more soy sauce. So I'm going to add another tablespoon of soy sauce to mine. And then I'm going to add my sesame oil. Oh, I'm sorry, sesame oil is at the end. Okay. So, sorry for the noise. Let's move that there. Gonna just kind of clean up a little bit while that's coming to a boil. And while that's coming to a boil, we're going to do a couple other things. A little off camera, but I'm going to take my egg and I'm going to crack my egg into a small bowl and I'm going to scramble it. So I need you to scramble your egg. I'm going to grab a little fork. Okay. And I'm just going to scramble that egg. Now you may want to find a little bigger bowl to make sure you don't splash. I feel pretty confident in not splashing this over. And what I need you to do is make sure that when you scramble that egg, it's a one solid yellow color. There's no part of white that you can see. It all looks the same, okay? And just kind of set that off to the side. Once you scrambled it, get rid of some of our dirty dishes. Okay, so we have our egg. I'm gonna check this again. Okay. Okay, so for me, I like a little more salt, so I'm gonna add just a little salt to it. And I like a little more heat to my hot and sour soup, so I'm gonna add a good half teaspoon of white pepper. Okay, so now my soup has come to a boil. Directions now say to simmer for 10 minutes. We are not going to sit here and watch this simmer for 10 minutes. What we're going to do is we're going to just kind of move forward, okay? Like I said, my burner runs a little hot, so I'm going to just take it off the heat actually. And now I'm going to take my cornstarch and my chicken stock, and I'm going to mix those two together. Let's check our recipe. It calls for chicken stock, cornstarch. Yep, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. So you want to mix 2 tablespoons of cornstarch into your chicken stock and stir that together until there are no lumps, okay? So you want to just keep stirring that until there's no lumps of cornstarch. This is our thickening agent, gentlemen, ladies. This is what's going to thicken our soup, okay? So you want to make sure that there are no lumps in there, and I can feel that there are no lumps. So I'm going to return this to the heat. All right. And I am going to then look at our directions. Okay, so allow to simmer. We've been simmering actually for about 5 minutes. We're going to return it to the heat, and we're going to add our cornstarch mixture. Okay. So when you do this, make sure you stir it beforehand. Okay, right before you add it, make sure that you stir, because the cornstarch will settle to the bottom. And then you want to pour and stir at the same time. Okay? So pour and stir at the same time so that it doesn't just settle to the bottom, because once it settles to the bottom, it will gelatinize and it'll be like a jelly bean. All right, now we want that to come to a boil, because that's what activates the cornstarch, and it will slightly thicken. So we're getting there. Continue to stir. And we'll wait for this to boil. Then the next step is we're going to do our egg. Got our egg mixture, and we're going to ribbon that in, and I'll explain that in just a second. Okay, just want to taste. That's good. Needs just a little salt for me, and that's good. All right, so I'm just going to kind of step out of the light a little bit so that you can see into the pot a little. All right, it is thickened just slightly. It's not going to thicken a lot. It's not going to turn into, to a real thick soup, but it's going to have a little bit of viscosity to it. I mean, it's just going to have a little body. Okay, now we're getting real close to then the end. Okay, I'm going to turn that off, because that really at this point does not need to cook any longer. And as I mentioned, my burners run hot on me, so I just need to be careful. Okay, I'm just going to move this camera just back a little bit so that I can move this pot over a little bit. And I'm now going to ribbon, and I'm going to actually do it off of the heat. Ribboning is taking your eggs, okay, and pouring your eggs in a thin stream as you stir. Gently, a little bit at a time, okay? A little bit at a time. Boom. And that's called ribboning. There's our egg. Starting to look like Chinese takeout already, but better. Okay. Now at this point, we are almost done. We're going to add our tofu. And we're going to add about half of our green onion, because the other half gets saved for a garnish. And then we have to add a little bit of sesame oil. And I only add a little bit, about a half a teaspoon is all that I'm going to add. And I'm going to stir that in. I'll return to the heat, just briefly, just to make sure everything is nice and hot. And then I'm going to give it a little taste. Clean my spoon. All right. Move that over a little so you can see. But that looks pretty good. Give that a little taste. That is good. That is good. All right, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is our hot and sour soup. Now, if you feel that it needs a little more sour, it's not quite sour enough, add a little more vinegar, but a touch. Don't add too much, because you can't take it away. You can always add more, but you can't take it away. All right, that looks good. Now let's go ahead and let's serve up a bowl. Let me get a ladle. And let me get a bowl. I don't really have soup bowls. I have low bowls or pasta bowls as they're called, but they do work. So I'm just going to take a little bit and I'm going to ladle it into my bowl. It's not really, like I said, the proper bowl, but at least you can see. Excuse me, by the way. Okay, that's good. It's a nice little portion size. Okay, and then take a little bit of leftover green onion, sprinkle maybe a few bit on the top, and that is our hot and sour soup. Let me get a little spoonful. It's good. It's got a nice balance, a little bit of heat, a little pungency from the vinegar. But those carrots kind of sweeten things up a little bit. Those mushrooms and those green onions. That's a good bowl of soup. So that is our better than takeout hot and sour soup. And earlier we finished our pork and cabbage egg rolls. Plus we'll have lo mein for this week as well too. So that's our lesson. We will discuss this upcoming week.